Hi, this is Michael, and welcome to another installment of Ask Michael. So Marvin asked a really good question on the discussion boards, and I decided to put it into this section. And he basically asked, how good of a programmer do you really need to be in order to get employed as an iOS developer? And this is a really important question. And so before I answer it, this is a typical question that you will probably be asked on an interview, and a lot of people might not think so. For example, let me just give you an example first. If you were going to interview for a manager position, a lot of times what do you get when you get asked on an interview? They'll ask, what are the qualities that make a good manager or leader? They want to understand if you really understand what makes a good leader and manager. And by understanding that shows the employer that you really could do the job. So the question really is then, what qualities makes a really good iOS developer that makes you stand out from the crowd? And this is the whole purpose of why I put this course together. And there was a lot of work and effort and structure went into this. I mean, for example, I've got another question before I answer that question from a lot of other people about, how did you structure? What was your thought process when you were putting this course together? And obviously in the intro section, I mentioned to you all that I wanted to put something together that I wish I had as I was going through the process. And I didn't really see a lot of things out there that really taught it right or taught you how to do things the right way. And if you learn and get bad habits, especially when you're new, you're going to carry that over, and you don't know any different because you're learning. And it's really important to have an instructor that can give you that insight and experience up front so you can know that you're writing clean code. And most importantly, to have a community like we have where we share information. And that's why I did source control too, and Git, for all of us to share and look at each other's code, because we all learn from each other. If somebody ever says I'm an expert in iOS, don't believe them, because no one is an expert in iOS developer. Every single day you learn something new, and that's what makes this being an iOS developer or even a mobile developer in any other platform so exciting, because you learn every single day, and you learn. And when you work with the best, and you want to work with great people because it makes you better. And so just putting that all aside here, let me tell you what are the qualities that make a really good iOS developer. First of all, you follow the model view controller design pattern. You put the code in the right places, and obviously you've seen me say this over and over again, because this is the basis of this entire course. And let me give you another example. All right, anybody could pretty much write an app that runs and it works, but if you don't put the code in the right place, for example, you're putting model logic into the controller and you're doing things like that, when you try to scale up your app, you're going to have to rework a lot. It's not easy maintainable, and you're going to have all this extra work. But most importantly, and that was another reason why I wanted you to learn a lot more about GitHub, is that whatever you do, you put it out there. You want the world to see your work, and you want employers to see what you did. And if an employer looks at your code and sees that you're not following the model view control design pattern, or your code is all over the place, you're not doing best coding practices, they're not going to hire you. So it's so important, and that was the main focus of this course, was to always give you the best coding practices, writing clean code. So best coding practices, following the model view control design pattern, writing clean and efficient code. And what I mean by that, I'll say this again, is not overcomplicating your logic, where you don't want to do things that are really crazy where it's hard to maintain. So there's a balance between optimization and good readable code. So just be aware, and I talk all about that in the prior lectures. So depending where you are in the course, when you're watching this particular lecture, you'll know what I mean by that. But it is so important to be able to write clean, optimized code following best coding practices, and most importantly, using the frameworks that fit the task. And that is so important too. You don't want to, for example, and I mentioned this earlier, if you're storing small amounts of information, you don't want to use core data. You want to use NS user defaults. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of developers make is that a lot of times they may do core data because they want to learn the concepts, and they put it on GitHub, but you don't realize if you're on GitHub on a free account, anybody can see your logic. If an employer looks at your source code and sees that you're using core data for something that's so simple, they're going to say, why did he do that? And they're not going to hire you. So be aware when you put things up on GitHub and you have a free account, not a private account, just be careful not to do frameworks just because you may want to do it to learn, right? You don't want other employers or other colleagues to see you do things. So in that case, you may want to have a private account. So be very, very careful. And that's why I stress throughout this course that, when you do your app, don't put things in that app that doesn't fit the app. If you want to play with other frameworks, write another app that fits that framework, because that's so important. All right. So I think you understand that in order for you to stand out, you really want to be able to talk from experience. So now, taking this course, you're getting the experience from day one, from the very beginning, from the very early lectures. I talk all about how to do clean code, how to follow the model view control design plan, how to set up your Xcode project with groups. So if you follow and you take this whole course from beginning to end without jumping around and skipping around, and take them in order, and you do the challenges and you do those exercises, you're going to be able to talk from experience. And I walk through this whole course. I give you tips and tricks all about interview questions. But most importantly, everything I talk about, you are applying. So you're talking from experience. And I've said this earlier. So whenever you answer any question on an interview, you always want to talk from experience. What did you do? And what were your challenges? And then explain and give an answer toward it. And that will make you stand out. So again, to answer his question, what makes a good iOS developer is all those qualities that I just mentioned. And you will stand out. And so I hope, if anybody has any other questions regarding this, go ahead and look at Marvin's question out there. He wrote, I am pretty sure you've heard this question before, and why don't you add any additional comments if you like that, or what's your opinion on what I said? Do you agree with me? Anyway, on that note, I also wanted to let everybody know that the week of June 13th was a real exciting week with WWDC 2016. There was tons and stuff that were out there that Apple introduced. I'm in the process of consolidating all this information, and I'll be putting out a number of lectures to talk all about the new stuff. But again, you know me, when I do things, it's going to be very different. I'm not going to talk all about the things that, every single thing that Apple did, because you can just go to WWDC 2016 and watch those videos. I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you every single thing in our code that changes for Swift 3.0. I'm going to be talking all about Xcode 8. Due to educational purposes, I can show you Xcode 8 beta, and I'm going to show you some of the new features. And I'm going to talk about everything that impacts our app, and then talk about other things that may not be in our app yet but are coming. So look for that soon. I've just been, like I said, there's so much, and I've been applying and updating our code base, and everything that I do will be out on the resource tab. And so look for that, and probably in another week or two, I'll be posting out an educational announcement to talk all about what's come, what we have. And I have tons and tons of other stuff about optimization that will be coming out soon. I have all those things already recorded right now, and I'm just deciding the sequence of events to put them out to make sense. So it kind of leads into what we're doing with the new stuff. So anyway, on that note, wherever you are in the world, have a good rest of the day, good evening, and I will talk to everyone real shortly. Thank you.